Today, we're looking at travel-friendly, hand-operated espresso gadgets. I'll show you 4 such devices: the NanoPresso, the HandPresso, the Compresso, and my own hacked AeroPress with a new feature. Each one is small enough for you to hold comfortably in one hand. Because they're meant to be travel companions, I'll test each one using the same manual grinder. For coffee, I'll be using a washed, low-altitude bourbon from Honduras, a darkish roast that should give up its goodness without a struggle. I roasted this about 3 weeks before making these videos to make sure we don't see a big release of CO2, which would create a fake mousse. Any foam I get will have been produced mechanically, not chemically. Well, for the most part anyway. We've got a fair amount of material to cover, so get comfortable, sit back, and enjoy, preferably with a nice pot of coffee.
Oh my God.
It's like a miracle.
First up, the NanoPresso from an outfit called Wakako. It's compact and good-looking, I think. It's the right size for travel. It feels solid and the pump action is smooth and precise. There's no hint of cheapness. Everything is made from quality material. The basket is glass-reinforced plastic, and you get a nice fitted travel case. Filling the basket is a challenge because it's so small. You get a scoop that doubles as a basic tamp and triples as a simple dosing funnel. It fits snugly on the basket, so it's all right when you're using pre-ground coffee. You just scoop it, weigh it, and set it in place. However, using a measured dose of coffee beans is something else entirely. I made several different attempts, but it was always awkward and messy. The basket starts in the upside-down orientation, meaning that we'll tamp the coffee against the built-in shower screen instead of the bottom, which comes as a separate piece. The manufacturer recommends leaving around 4 millimeters of headspace. I'm using 7 grams of coffee here, so this is a basic single-shot device. With a 7-gram dose, I'll be looking for 20 to 22 milliliters out. Unfortunately, that's easier said than done. This middle section with the pump mechanism retains an inconsistent amount of water between batches, so water delivery is imprecise and unpredictable. The pump section is also a major heat sink. If you don't preheat it thoroughly, you'll get a sour shot, like lemon juice, so always start by filling the reservoir with boiling water and pumping it through. You have to put the whole thing together or it gets messy. Now let's try it with coffee. You mount the basket, then put the bottom screen in place, and invert everything. The hot water reservoir will be mounted above, so everything will flow downward out through this little nozzle. Once it's assembled, pump very hot water through until some coffee appears, pause for around 20 seconds to wet the grounds, then continue. Use steady, even strokes for a good result. Sudden moves produce a poor flow. The pump delivers good pressure. The mechanism feels solid and direct, but of course it's hidden, so I can't predict how durable it will be. There might be several potential points of failure concealed within. And again, heat management is a challenge with this gadget, so as I said, lean toward lower density beans and darker roasts for better extraction, and use hot water immediately off the boil. This coffee looks pretty good to me. There's a respectable layer of mousse here. The flavor is not bad, indicating decent extraction. It's a bit sour and it lacks body, but it's otherwise all right. With a bit of practice, I think anyone could make a tolerable drink. Results aside, the device has got issues. Leftover coffee in the chamber here indicates that a partial vacuum can develop between strokes. The soggy condition of the puck tells the same story, that water has been moving back and forth through it. This messy basket and lower screen mean that we'll have to rinse between shots. There's a lot to clean up after. The workflow for multiple shots is clumsy and tedious, easily the worst of all the devices I tested. I can't recommend it. It's too complicated, awkward, and messy, especially for single dosing, and it costs over 90 euros. There are way too many parts. It's clever, it's cute, it's admirably compact, and it makes a drinkable, if not brilliant, shot, but it's more novelty than coffee maker. Now let's check out the Handpresso. It consists of a simple brewing chamber attached to a miniature bicycle pump. It looks gimmicky, but it works, and overall the device feels solid and well made. You'll pump air into a small chamber, building up to around 16 bar, and later release it into the brewing chamber once it's been filled and sealed shut. You fill this tiny and inexcusably flimsy basket with around 7 grams of coffee. This one also has a built-in shower screen, a thin metal one which is under some tension. It stores energy and snaps back and forth. If you handle it wrong, and it shifts suddenly after you've filled the basket, it will upset the puck. The manufacturer doesn't include a scoop, funnel, or tamp for this very odd-sized basket, and I find that quite irritating. I made a simple tamp with some heavy cardboard tubing, a plastic bottle cap, and hot glue. Again, I'll tamp the coffee against the shower screen because the bottom of the basket is a separate piece. However, the brewing chamber is simpler and the process is more direct. I know it doesn't appear so at the moment, but you'll see what I mean. Start by getting your pressurized air ready. This takes around 30 strokes. The device feels comfortable in the hand while you're doing this. Next, prepare the basket with around 7 grams of coffee. Pre-ground coffee would make this a lot easier. Using small doses ground on the fly is even more of a pain than it was with the NanoPresso. I'll tamp mine and set it aside. Carefully. Preheating the chamber is easy. Just fill it with hot water, cover it, wait about 20 seconds, and toss it. You then refill the chamber with very hot water, drop in your basket, and tighten the cap. You can't conveniently fill it on a scale, so you just need to eyeball the amount of water. Now invert it and open the valve to start brewing. If you'd like to wet the grounds for 20 seconds or so, you can. Closing the valve will interrupt the brew. While the coffee is absorbing water, you can pump more air into the device, increasing the pressure. I think this makes for a better shot, although it is slightly inconvenient. I don't think it's designed to work this way, but it does seem to help. I made a good number of shots, both with a continuous stream and with the two-stage method, and at no time did I get mousse close to what I got from the NanoPresso. The flavor, however, was better. I think the Handpresso stays hotter, so you get a more balanced flavor. But this also lacked the concentration and rich texture we look for in espresso. The workflow is noticeably simpler than with the NanoPresso, and the operation is relatively neat and tidy. The puck comes out in better shape, too. You can simply wipe the basket and lower screen. Repeat shots are going to be quicker, especially if you use pre-ground coffee. There is an adapter for ESE pods. I suspect it would work nicely with them, but I didn't test it, so I don't know that for a fact. You could certainly get a good rhythmic workflow going with no cleaning between shots. I'll go out on a limb and say that this gadget was probably designed for ESE pods, while the loose coffee espresso basket was an afterthought. The box is nice for presentation, but there's no travel case. It would be nice to have something small and fitted to protect it and keep it clean. I can't recommend it. While the overall build quality feels good, the basket is a sick joke, and there's no scoop or funnel or tamp. The pump mechanism and valve system work fine, but they could certainly be points of early failure. It costs about €100, but it suffers from low capacity and temperature management issues like the NanoPresso. At that price, it should work better. Definitely more of a novelty item here. Now let's look at the Compresso made by an outfit called Caflano. This is a very simple and direct system, and I'm expecting it to work nicely. It uses a plunger and barrel to force hot water through a puck. Only here, you have a basket that will accommodate up to 14 grams of coffee. The barrel has a metal shower screen, and the basket also gets a metal bottom screen. This works exactly like an AeroPress, except the bore is a good deal smaller. This makes for higher pressures with a given amount of force. The bottom of the coffee scoop fits nicely as a tamp, but the top edge doesn't mate with the basket, so you can't use it as a funnel. But that's all right, because the basket has room to spare. I modded the inner edge of mine slightly so that the semi-functional filler on my hand grinder just fits it. I found a sweet spot with a 12-gram dose and around 45 milliliters of water, getting a shot in the 28 milliliter range. The barrel is graduated, so it's easy to fill consistently by eye. I dial in the grind for a 45 to 60 second shot. It's easy to use, but it refuses to empty. When you reach the bottom of its travel, you've still got liquid in the basket and just above it. The puck will be soupy and continue dripping for quite a while. The design flaw here is the tube's length. There isn't enough air separating the plunger and the water. So, as wrong as this might seem, it's best to back the plunger out, which will draw air up through the puck, then press it again from above. This should force all of the liquid out of the coffee. This design failure could have been avoided easily. The tube should be long enough, relative to its diameter, to keep enough air above the water so that it works with one stroke. There is not a trace of foam in the cup, but the coffee tastes good. It has better balance and more texture than either the NanoPresso or HandPresso. Still, I've got some problems with this thing. It feels flimsy, delicate even. I don't think it will last long. The shower screen has a seal that's bound to give up the ghost to a sink disposal or a kitchen knife, and the manufacturer gives you only one. The shower screen itself is flimsy and easily damaged, and the bottom screen in the basket is just as bad. At €75, this thing is overpriced. I appreciate this type of simple device, but the design is flawed and the quality is inferior. Not recommended. Finally, let's try the AeroPress. I posted a video recently about making espresso with one. It works well and yields the balanced flavor and rich texture you get with a proper espresso machine. But I could not get any foam. And I tried. Seriously. But I was using standard AeroPress paper filters at the bottom, and I thought that might have been preventing the foam. So I got a metal screen and continued experimenting. Now, for a shower screen that distributes water through the coffee, you can use 2 AeroPress paper filters cut to size, or a modded metal screen, both of which I explain in the earlier video. I prefer the metal option on top because it doubles as a tamp. Use the plunger without the piston to chase it down the barrel. If you prefer the paper option, you'll have to settle the coffee using gravity and a few sharp smacks. The papers can be rinsed and reused many times, so this option is quite economical. You can also use one paper filter under the metal screen for the ultimate in even water distribution. The AeroPress bore is unfortunately wide, so it will deliver less pressure per unit of force than the Compresso. Because there's lower pressure, I like to slow the brew. I recommend dialing in the grind until your shots are in the 60 to 90 second range. We're using contact time as a substitute for pressure to ensure good extraction. The flavor is good and the texture is rich. This is about as concentrated and dense as any espresso. Sadly, there's no foam. The metal screen at the bottom didn't help. In fact, I prefer the flavor of the paper-filtered AeroPress espresso. I thought I could do better. I actually did worse, at least according to my own taste. Well, this was a series of disappointments. Each of the devices is flawed in some way. The AeroPress is the best of the lot, and I bet you've already got one. But if you haven't, they cost a mere 30 euros. So it's the least expensive choice and the most competent one. So yeah, the top in terms of value for money. Still, without proper mousse, I have to say that the hacked AeroPress is an incomplete solution. If there's a small hand device that makes espresso that's good tasting and good looking, I've yet to try it. But, I'm not sure about the whole concept here of making cafe drinks in the woods or in a hotel room. If you're going out hiking, why not just bring a thermos of your favorite coffee? And if you're going out of town, why not sample the local coffee shops along your way? I mean, do you really want to be this guy? Well, that's about all for today. I've got some news. I'm going to start posting different content along with my coffee videos. Cafe gear is expensive and the channel doesn't see much traffic. I typically spend hundreds making each video and earn back tens. Still, I remain committed to paying full retail for everything I feature or evaluate. I'll never accept any free kit, discounts, or coffee-related sponsorships. That's a promise. So I'm going to start producing different videos to see if any of them will draw a larger audience. As a special treat for my coffee fans, I'm going to start giving away all of the coffee gadgets I buy, but I'll need about 10 times as many viewers to make that work. When I see 25 or 30,000 subs, I'll start live streaming monthly and giving away lots of goodies. So keep in touch. Cheers!